Shouty Brain.
Hello and welcome to the Shouty Brain podcast. My name is Trevor Holland. I hope you're well. I'm okay. I'm a bit tired and I'm a bit wired and my brain isn't really working very well today and I don't know how this episode's going to go as a result. Also, there is a fly in this room. My cat is on the floor at the moment searching for the fly. He is not the apex predator he believes himself to be. This week, I am joined by a very special guest by the name of Rebecca Kaplan, who is a stand-up comic hailing from the United States of America. She's a very, very funny comedian who also happens to be autistic, which seems to be the cost of entry to this podcast. She has at least one brain thing going on. So we're going to talk about that, as well as her comedy stylings. Very much looking forward to speaking to her. Full disclosure, I haven't recorded the episode yet, so I don't know how it's going to go. So let's just say it went really well. This was a wonderful chat. She's a fantastic guest. And at no point did I become hugely awkward and found it difficult to think of what to say next, because sometimes I'm a little bit out of my depth when I'm speaking to other human beings, especially ones I don't know very well. So I'm assuming none of that's going to happen and it's going to be absolutely plain sailing from start to finish. I hope you enjoy it. Have fun. Welcome, Rebecca, to Shouty Brain.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for coming. For the listeners out there, I did the most professional thing I've ever done, which is come straight onto this recording with Rebecca and immediately ask her if we could reconvene 10 minutes later so that I could go and have a look at the solar eclipse, which I went and did. And she was very patient with me while I went away and then came back with some potentially permanent eye damage. So thank you very much for your patience. Appreciate it.
No worries.
So I found you on Instagram through your short form content, little clips from your stand-up where you talked a bit about being autistic. So I think what I wanted to find out a bit more about first was your kind of your journey into stand-up, especially being neurodiverse and what unique challenges that may have presented. So tell me a little bit about how you got into stand-up.
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to do comedy stuff, and I think that as I guess in college, somebody encouraged me to try an open mic, and it's sort of indescribable how much of a rush you get performing words instead of just writing them. So yeah, and also I had done a bunch of sketch stuff with friends and stuff, but I feel stand-up has a very alluring aspect to it, which is that you don't need to coordinate schedules with anyone else to do it. You can just kind of get up and go hit an open mic or go do a show or whatever. But and yeah, as for neurodiversity and stand up, I feel probably close to half of people who do stand up are somewhere on the spectrum. So it's I'm not saying there aren't challenges, but it's also a very I think people are more understanding in general of neurodiversity than in other a traditional workplace or something.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think so many people in not just in the performing arts, but specifically in comedy, stand-up comedy, why do you think that's the case? What do you think the correlation is between being neurodiverse and wanting to or performing comedy? Do you think there's something about it that makes people more predisposed to becoming comedians?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of comedy is sort of takes being an outside observer and commenting on the ridiculousness of society. And if you're somebody that the ridiculous of society doesn't exactly come naturally to you, I feel you're more likely to be why do all of these social conventions exist, You're
kind of observing the absurdity of life and things that other people don't necessarily even see as unusual and odd. So tell me about that first experience when you did your first open mic then. What did that feel like?
Yeah, I mean, it's just really, it felt really like gratifying to like, 'cause, you know, I'd been writing comedy stuff and like just doing like, I feel like even doing sketch videos doesn't give you the same immediate sense of gratification as saying words and like watching people laugh in real time at like what you're doing. You know, like there's sort of like an aspect to live performance that's very you know, like you get just like this like crazy sense of like connection that like even even like with acting in like videos, you don't, there's still like a layer of like barrier. And yeah, like I obviously, like, you know, I was performing for like mostly a group of my friends and they were like, oh my God, you're so funny, you should do more of this. And then obviously it's not like so easy to like get actual success, but you know, it felt, I mean, you know, it felt encouraging that at least my friends were like, oh, you're so funny.
Yeah. I did some, I was on the open mic circuit in London for a couple of years around 2013, around 2012 to 2014. And that came because before that I was doing, I was writing, I was writing blogs and I was presenting local kind of community internet radio. So I was doing bits and pieces like that, but for years I've been avoiding the reality that what I really wanted to do was get the feeling of standing up on stage and performing comedy. But I told myself I couldn't do it for such a long time because I was so introverted, but to such an extent that the whole idea of it became so terrifying that I didn't even entertain it. But something switched in me and I thought, I don't think I'm ever going to forgive myself if I don't try it. And I was unspeakably terrified the first open mic that I did. And it was awful because I was, the person who was running the open mic night didn't normally have comedians on and didn't know how much time to give me. So gave me fucking 20 minutes for my first ever set, which was a horrible mistake. But oh my God, that feeling of, I know it was an open mic night in the middle of the week at a pub in South London where most people weren't paying much attention. It was really noisy and stuff, but there were a few people paying attention. But the fact that I was just there speaking into a mic, telling my jokes, I've never felt so alive. Oh my God, it was fantastic. So I ended up doing it for a couple of years. So that's why I'm particularly interested in talking to comedians, because, you know, I never really got off the ground with it. I did it for a couple of years and it just became, I wasn't passionate enough about it to keep doing it and keep spending the money that it was costing me to do it and the time it was taking next to my full-time job. So I stopped doing it regrettably. But how long have you been performing now?
Like about 8 years. And yeah, it is like quite a drudge for sure.
Yeah. And so I can see from your social media and your website, you're performing a lot, most days, in fact.
Yeah.
And sometimes more than once. So are you touring at the moment? I know. Forgive me if I'm a little bit ignorant, but what are you doing at the moment? Because I know you're doing quite a lot of gigs.
Yeah. Right now, I'm trying to like work on refining like an hour-long special about sort of like, I mean, obviously like cliche, like a lot of like comedians are talking about this, but I'm sort of like doing my take on like a stand-up hour of like being like, I'm autistic and this is like my personal journey with that. And like, you know, like my journey through like dating and like stuff like that. But so I've been trying to tour around the US to try to like get enough stage time to, you know, to just make that as good as it can be. And then I'm going to film in December in New York and put it out on YouTube.
Oh, fantastic. Is this How to Be Normal? So
I'm calling it. Yeah, sorry.
No, carry on.
No, it's okay. I'm calling it like How to Act Normal. 'Cause one of my friends in college, he was like, whatever. At some point, he was like, Rebecca, like when you write your first book, you should call it How to Act Normal. It's like, seems so weird or whatever. But anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
I was just going to ask how that's going, refining it and chiseling away at it and honing it. Are you enjoying it? Do you feel like it's close to where it needs to be for recording in a few months?
Yeah, it's sort of like almost like a puzzle piece now, because it's like I have these like individual bits where I'm like, okay, individually these like bits of stand up like kind of like work well, but I'm not, I guess like when I started the process, I was sort of like, okay, like let me cram in as many bits that I have that I like as I can. And now I'm sort of like, I've been like, basically every time I get to do like a long, 30 to 60 minute set, I go back and I'm like, okay, like which pieces of this are like contradicting each other? Like, like I have like a lot of, because, like obviously like stand up is like sort of like, it's all like loosely inspired by life, but like then with like a huge amount of like fabrication or like, maybe I like took a story that happened to a friend and like made it happen to me. Maybe some of it is just like a stray thought that I had. So like there's a lot of things where I like for example, I'll be like, I have a boyfriend. No, I don't. I have like an ex-boyfriend. I broke up with my boyfriend, so I'm like trying to sort of like take like, just as like one example, I need to like take all of those pieces and sort of like winnow stuff down that's not that's sort of like making the rest of it seem inauthentic, or at least trying to figure out how to like bridge those like things so that they seem more authentic or whatever.
So would you say your style on a kind of long form show of up to an hour, are you trying to create kind of an overarching narrative, or is your style more a series of anecdotal kind of jokes that are kind of interlinked in a way? What's the way that you're approaching it?
Yeah, I guess I'm like I started with like a bunch of like short isolated jokes and I'm trying to like as much as I can craft some type of narrative around it. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm at least like 80% of the way there, maybe.
That's good. So do you know when it's actually when it's going to be available on YouTube so that people can look out for it?
For sure, sometime in 2027. I'm hoping. I'm planning to edit it myself, so it'll probably like depend how much I personally procrastinate on it. But I think I would like to have it up like sometime in like March, let's say.
Oh, nice. And it's recording in December, you said. And where's that going to be?
If anyone listening lives in New York City or knows somebody in New York City, tell them to go to Empire Stage in Prospect Lefferts Garden in Brooklyn on December 10th.
Okay.
It's like this little warehouse space.
Nice. So, I'm sorry, I'll keep interrupting you.
No. Sorry, I was just saying.
Okay.
So you can. Yeah.
So, let's talk about your autism diagnosis. So when was it that you were diagnosed, and how did that come about?
Yeah, it's kind of like ridiculous, but I guess like when the COVID vaccine like came out in the US, at first they were restricting it to people who like had certain diseases or disabilities, and I guess somebody like told me that having autism or having ADHD like was one of the qualifiers, and up to that point I like had not had an official diagnosis, even though a significant amount of people in my life, including like my pediatrician, my like teachers in school, pretty much like almost anyone who like met me was like, like, oh, you've got this. but I didn't have like the official diagnosis. So I just sort of started looking into like, how can I, like, is there an easy way to like make this official? And I found a place that was willing to do it for free in exchange for like participating in a study.
And so you got your diagnosis and you got your vaccine.
Yes.
Nice. I was able to beat the queue for the vaccine because I was massively fat at the time. So
Nice.
that was seen as that made me clinically vulnerable because I didn't know that, but my doctor told me, you're so fat that you're clinically vulnerable, so you can have the vaccine. So that was great. But no one told the people at the place that was the case. So these people at the time, the only people getting vaccinated were really old. So I turned up to this place, this big fat like 38-year-old dude.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let me have the vaccine. So, and I had to justify it to them. So I said, but I'm fat. But I'm really fat, guys. And I had to show them my phone and a thing from my doctor that says he is fat and he's allowed to have it. And so I had to argue with them. So, but look at me, guys. Can't you see how fat I am? I'm really vulnerable. And so I eventually had it, but I had to argue for it. But that was one of the highlights of my life, having to justify my vulnerability through my obesity.
Is that what made you like diet? You're like, I can't go through that again, or
you would have thought, right? You would have thought that would have been enough of an indignity for me to say, maybe now that I've had the vaccine, I have no justifiable reason to stay as fat as this. I should probably do something about it. But truth be told, it took me another 5 years to start losing weight, mainly because I genuinely thought I was going to die because I was so fat. I think that's probably the catalyst for me, was realizing that I couldn't really walk properly anymore. That's probably it for me. So yeah, it wasn't the vaccine, but the vaccine helped me. Sorry, being fat helped me get a vaccine. So yeah, I mean, it might have been a slightly unusual method or path for you getting your diagnosis and the reason for it, but I mean, I guess it's a happy accident, if you want to call it that. But you got it, and you got your diagnosis. So when you did get it, how did you feel about it?
I don't know. I mean, I think that like the thing with getting like these like diagnoses is it sort of doesn't really change much, unless you're it's sort of like, unless you qualify for, there aren't many social services, at least in America, for people with an autism diagnosis. And in like the services that there are, you have to be like on the fairly like extreme end of it. Like more like, you have to be like genuinely not able to work pretty much. I mean, like there is one social service that I guess is available to anyone who just has the diagnosis period, which is that if you have like really low assets and you are also a low earner, you're eligible for like Medicaid. So that part is nice, I guess. But yeah, aside from that, like one, or like, aside from like pretty much like the most that you get out of it is just like self-knowledge. And I think that, you can get that self-knowledge without the official diagnosis. Like, I think, like the people who like sort of like TikTok autism, like that, it irritates me when people just see like one TikTok video and like they're like, oh, that sounds a little bit like me, and then they start going around being like, I'm autistic. I think like you need to do like at least a minimal amount of like research, like read the DSM definition, read like some sources like written by like actual like like experts or whatever. But I think if you have done that like level of like reading and you feel like it applies to you, like I don't think it's like really, I don't think that like you need to have an official diagnosis to, you know, to sort of like be like, oh, like these like, because all it really is like what you get can like maybe like use like coping techniques or something, and it's like, okay, like what's stopping you from like using those coping techniques even if you don't like officially have autism?
It's an interesting point of view, and it is interesting because people feel vastly differently about it when they get a diagnosis. For some people it's a really significant moment for them, and for some people it's not so much, because it doesn't really change anything. It seems to be what you're saying is that it hasn't really made any difference, and having the diagnosis, apart from being able to get a COVID vaccine, that doesn't really change anything for you. I suppose because you've lived your whole life, you know, with these things that you might find difficult, or a different way of thinking, a different way of processing, and it's just you, and it's just So some people though, it's a massive. For me, it was quite significant. You know, I'm 42 years of age. I was only diagnosed this year, and I didn't think it was going to be significant. I was kind of in your school of thought about it, that it wasn't really going to make any difference. It was just going to help me to have a little bit more self-knowledge and self-awareness. But actually, for one reason or another, it made me feel all sorts of ways for a while when it became a reality. So it didn't really make you feel any differently. It didn't make things make sense to you in a.
One thing that might also like be a difference of like whatever between me and somebody else who like is like I had like since I was like pretty young, everybody was like basically saying like, I think you're autistic. Like, I mean, at the time called Asperger's, but like, you know, I guess it's sort of like it was like not exactly like a foreign idea to me, or like, you know, I guess I already had like gone through the being like I guess like for me, like the diagnosis itself was like just a formality, and I had like already like come to my own conclusions about like what the diagnosis like would mean, or like whether whether like being officially autistic meant anything to me. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But did it make you feel any kind of way when you went through your life being told by the people around you, oh, Rebecca's autistic? Did that affect you in any way? Did it make you feel any kind of way about it?
I mean, I think that like people just saying it didn't like affect me as much as like the actual like things that were making them say that, if that makes sense. You know, like people saying like, I think, you know, like you probably have this, is like, that's just sort of like those are just like words, but like the actual like interactions with like my peers where I'm like, you know, being like cripplingly awkward or like that type of thing, like, yeah, for sure that, you know, I think that leaves like some type of like psychological scar on people. 'Cause, you know, like it's like you understand enough to know that like you're doing like things wrong socially. And a lot of times I do like kind of intuitively know what the right thing that I should be doing is. I just like can't bring myself to do it in a way that like other people perceive as like natural or organic. So like, yeah, for sure. Like that's, I don't know. Yeah.
Did it cause you any turmoil though when you were having these social interactions growing up, and as you call it, you were doing it wrong? Did that make you question why you were this way, and were you that introspective about it, or did you just kind of roll with it and think, well, I'm just a bit different?
I was like introspective, and I also like for whatever reason, even though my parents didn't get me like they decided not to take me to the thing that would have given me the official diagnosis. I think they didn't want me to like have that label, or they didn't think it would be helpful to have that label, but they still put me into like some social skills groups. Or there was like one thing where like there was like 1 year in like my middle school where they were like, okay, everybody like has to have like a mandatory like after school social, or like everybody has to join a club, like it's mandatory for like the last period of the day or whatever. And like somebody like approached me at some point and they were like, we hear you like to write, would you like to be in this like poetry writing class? And I was like, sure. And like my friend who was next to me was like, oh, I also like to write poetry, could I like be in that club too? And like the adults like like the adult just looked like they were like, oh, like like they were like, oh, sure, but like like you could tell they didn't like want her to like do it. And I was like, there's something weird, like this is not like a normal like poetry writing club. But and then I like got there and it was like very obvious that it was like more of like a social thing, or like I think it was like supposed to be like a grief thing actually, maybe, cuz like I don't know, it was just like I think I don't know like what exactly like they made them decide that I needed to be in this, but it was like very much like let's talk about our feelings, like I think it was like basically like them trying to be like, we can't like force parents to like put their kids in therapy, but we're gonna like come up with this like way. I mean, yeah, it was basically like a therapy, like a group therapy thing, and like the poetry was just like a thinly veiled but yeah, so like I guess like I had like people like were in my life like when I was like a child were trying to like do interventions, I guess. Like there was like another time when like everybody was like disturbed by how little eye contact I made, and like my mom basically like like she was trying to like do a chore chart where like my brother and I would like get monetary like rewards for doing like like do like, let's say do the dishes, you get a little like a dollar or something. So she like kind of was like, every time you make eye contact with a stranger for like 3 seconds, I'll give you a dime. So like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, but yeah, like, I guess, I guess what I'm trying to say is that like, even though I didn't get like the official diagnosis until like well into adulthood, like it's not like I didn't exactly like come into it having had like no resources or like no
well, yeah, that's where you and I differ, because it didn't even come into the conversation. It may, I mean, I've spoken to my mum about it, and I don't think there was any kind of behind closed doors conversation about me when I was a kid, saying what's up with Trevor. And the irony is, in fact, that my mum spent over a decade working with autistic kids for a job, but she can fucking tell. But I think it was a little bit too close to home. Interestingly, this weird poetry therapy cult thing that you joined. How old were you when this happened?
I must have been like 12 or something.
And did you say that at the time, even then, you kind of realized something was a bit fishy about it, or that it wasn't quite what it appeared to be, that it was maybe something else?
Yeah, like the moment that that my friend asked to join, and they like they said yes, but like in a way that made it clear that they didn't actually want her to. I was like, this is not like, like this is like, I didn't know like what their ulterior motive was, but I was like, this is like not a poetry class.
How long did you
But
have to do that?
I don't know, maybe like 3 months or something.
And did it actually take it? You just kind of went with it. You just kind of, accepted it. But did he get anything positive from doing it?
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
I mean, I think like you have to kind of like buy into wanting to do therapy, or like therapeutic
Sure.
interventions. So, I mean, yeah, like you can't trick somebody into like doing therapy.
No, no. But what I actually meant was, did you actually do poetry? Did you actually get anything out of that, or was that just a whole sham? Was there nothing to do with poetry about it?
I think that they were like, I'm trying to remember. I think they were like, oh, like, let's all write poems about our feelings. I don't know. I
Right. Yeah.
probably, I think I probably like, sat and like wrote my own thing for like however long they were, like I
Mm.
did really like to write, but I like, yeah, I don't think I was like following their prompts.
No, that's interesting. So, do you feel any kind of way about the fact that your parents didn't want to pursue a diagnosis, or is it not really that significant to you at this point?
I don't know. I mean, I think that like I kind of like get where they're coming from because like I think my mom basically felt like that I was like sort of like that if I had it I was like on the cusp, and that like if I was told like, oh, you have this, then I was like going to like stop trying to fit into like normal society basically. And like I don't know, it's kind of like interesting because like by the time that I like got the official diagnosis, I had like already like independently stopped trying to like fit into normal society. Like I tried like a conventional job and it was like totally miserable, and like
Mm.
I don't know. I think that I think that like parents are like sort of like trying to like do the best that they can for like what they think will be best for their children. And I can't say like I don't, yeah, I guess I don't think that like having the diagnosis like would have like really changed much for me. It like the only thing it maybe like could have like helped with is like having some type of like validation that oh, you're like this is like hard for you like for a reason. But like I don't know, I guess like knowing there is a reason for something to be hard and then like not feeling bad about it being hard is like two different unrelated things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes
It's
sense.
it does. It does. It's a shame because parents, they for the most part, they've got nothing but the best of intentions. Unfortunately, I'm not speaking necessarily about your parents, but a lot of parents, or most parents, they just want their kids to be normal, right?
Yeah.
They want their kids to have a normal life, and so sometimes the approach to that feeling is not necessarily the correct one, because it's, well, let's try to improve your social skills. Let's try to make you more like other people. Try and kickstart your personality into becoming more like that.
Right.
When actually, that's not the reality of it, because you're just not made that way. So acknowledging that is quite important. So yeah, it is difficult when you're having to navigate that without a diagnosis, and when your parents are just doing what parents do, which is just they want you to be happy, but they think that happiness means being like everyone else. It can be difficult. Were you, because you talked about your social awkwardness, which I've got as well, of course. For me, when I was a kid, it was that the assumption was just that I was really shy. Was that kind of the same thing for you, or did it go beyond that?
Yeah, I think like I definitely read as like, oh, she's like cripplingly shy. And I think that's also part of like why my parents didn't like pursue the diagnosis, is like they, 'cause like, you know, it's sort of like at home and like with my friends, I was like talking completely normally. And I like could make eye contact. You know, like probably not as much as like, you know, like let's say a neurotypical person, but like, you know, it was really like I was really like more struggling with sort of like strangers and like strangers and like casual like, you know, acquaintances and like whatever, or like, you know, school setting. Like the reason basically like there was like a year of like school where I like practically didn't speak at school for like the entire year. And like, you know, like that was like when my teachers were like, you have to like, you know, take her to this like, you know, evaluation. And they did take me to the evaluation, and like the evaluator was like, yeah, your daughter like meets all of the markers of like Asperger's syndrome, and you should like take her to this like expert to get that official, like, you know, she was like, I'm not qualified to like diagnose this, but you should like go get this. And then they were like, no. And yeah, like I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I can't say that they were wrong, and like I don't know, I mean, like maybe this is sort of cynical, but like I don't know like what like resources like the school like would have had if I had like had the official diagnosis, you know, because like it's not like I wasn't struggling with like classwork, I just wasn't talking. And like, you know, I think I don't know, like, yeah, I don't know if like schools are really like qualified. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess I don't know like what they would have done with that. Like, yeah.
I'm assuming probably not much, because of your you know your low support needs. You know, so your kind of flavor of autism is a social one, and so
right.
what would they have done?
Right, and like if they were gonna do something, like I feel like they could have done it without like having the official, you know. All they really did is like talk to my parents and like let them know that there was a problem, and like I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I mean, I did like, I stopped like, I did like eventually stop not talking in class. So like that, probably like maybe if it had gone on for like a longer period of time, they made me talk to a counselor. That's like, I mean, yeah, like they made me like talk to the guidance counselor, but like, you know, what's like a guidance counselor gonna do? Nothing.
Do you remember why you started talking again, or what changed?
I don't know. I guess I like did this like summer camp program over the summer, and I sort of like, I guess I got some like confidence from like that, of like it was like, you know, like being in total immersion in like strangers, and like they were all like kind of like, it was like a program for like quote unquote gifted and talented, like summer camp program that was like academically focused. So you know, I got to like meet like 20 kids that were like similarly like nerdy and like whatever, and were like willing to like talk to me and like and stuff. And so yeah, I guess I got like a fair amount of like social practice, like social skills practice over like the summer between like 7th and 8th grade.
I when I think back to when I was a kid at junior school, and I was like between the ages of about 7 and 10, was probably at its peak, was when I was just so shy. But like you say, in only in certain situations. I was at home with my family. I was probably more of an extrovert than anything. I was bouncing around and dressing up and you know, putting on little shows for them and doing all sorts of stuff like that, because I just loved, like, wanted to entertain my family. But then when I was with my friends, I wouldn't exactly be the like the main loud person among them, but I would be one of them. You know, I wasn't like the leader of the gang or anything, but I was not shy at all. But it's the stranger thing, man, and
yeah.
It was that fear of talking to someone I didn't know and asking them a question. It made me so fucking insecure, so self-conscious. I think it's because I was self-conscious. I was so self-aware.
Right.
I was terrified of what would happen if I had to speak to this person. And obviously, I you know, the old cliche of rehearsing the conversation in your head 100 times, you know, try and build up the confidence to do it. But just like, you think you're going to do it wrong, or you don't know how the interaction is going to end, and it's just that I don't want my voice to be heard by anybody. I don't want to make a sound that comes from my body that is going to make people look at me and pay attention to me. I don't want anyone to pay attention to me. I don't want anyone to even know that I exist. I remember probably the worst example that I could think of, and fuck knows why we had to do this. I went to a Catholic school, primary school, and we were doing some kind of thing where we needed to draw a picture of an olive tree to do some shit about a dove and an olive branch, isn't there, something? But they didn't know what an olive tree looked like, and this was in the early 90s. So they said, my teacher said, Trevor, go over to this part of the school and go up to this classroom and speak to Mrs. Baker, the art teacher, and ask her what an olive tree looks like, and then come back and tell us so we can draw it. Which in itself is dumb as shit. What do you want me to do? Get second-hand information? So you're not going to get her to draw a picture of it. You're not going to get her to show me a book where there's a picture of it so I can bring it back. You want me to go upstairs and speak to somebody. They can tell me what it looks like, and I can bring that information back and tell you what it looks like. And then you're going to tell us what it looks like and get us to draw it. I didn't even think about how ridiculous that was, but that trip should have taken a minute or 2 minutes. And I don't know why she chose me to do it. But
maybe she was trying to encourage you.
Well, it didn't work because it took me an hour. It was up this big staircase to this classroom, and the class that she was teaching were a couple of years above me as well. So that was terrifying. And I remember standing at the bottom of this staircase, just thinking, I've got to go up these stairs and I've got to ask. I was going around in my head, hi, Mrs. Baker, I just wanted to know, could you tell me what an olive tree looks like, please? And I was thinking how many different ways I can say that, what my cadence needs to be, which syllables I need to emphasize to make it as convincing. You know, I don't want to be desperate. I don't want to be desperate for that olive tree information, but I want to sound like I'm grateful for it as well when I get it. I don't want to beg for it, and I don't want to be too nonchalant about it because you might think I've got an attitude. And I remember going up a couple of stairs and then coming back down again, and a couple more coming back down again. And actually, I say it didn't work. It did, but it took me an hour. By which time I went up and I just knocked on the door and I said, "What does an olive tree look like?" And then she told me. And then I went back to my classroom with that information. The fucking class had finished, and I was then in trouble because I was accused of having kind of how do you say it? I say
Playing
bunked off
hooky or
in the
whatever.
UK. Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. I was accused of doing that, to skipping class. And actually I was just pacing around, pissing myself because I didn't know how to have this conversation. But we got the information. We know what an olive tree looked like, but they just decided to draw a different kind of tree because I hadn't come back. They didn't come looking for me though. They just sent me on my way and then just left me. And then I just came back an hour later with my tail between my legs, really proud of myself. And then I was just like, where the fuck have you been? But yeah, it was horrible. And it was that kind of thing. I remember like my parents sent me to a shop to buy stamps. And I remember just pacing around the shop for half an hour, just thinking, well, how do I approach this? Because I just need to go up to the person and say, I'd like 6 stamps, please, and then give them the money, and then they give me the stamps, and then I leave. But I couldn't. I built it up in my head so much, I ended up just not doing it at all. I just couldn't do it. It's wild to me to think that I was that shy. It wasn't shyness though. Maybe it was a bit, but it was just because I didn't know how to do these things and be confident enough to know that I was going to do them correctly. And now I've gone the other way. So I wouldn't say that I'm an extrovert. I would still say pretty much I'm introverted, especially in a big group. But people that don't know me very well would never think for a second that I have any kind of introvert ways about me, because I don't give a shit, I think, now. And if I'm quiet, I don't think like, oh, people are going to judge me for being quiet. I think one of the things that the diagnosis has done for me is made me be able to be a little bit less apologetic about the way that I am, because I can just be the way I am and be like, well, fuck it. I just don't say much sometimes, deal with that. I'm not going to try to be something I'm not. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I was shy as shit as well. But how did that manifest when you started doing comedy? Did that side of you come into it? When you struggle in social settings, did that play a part in how you're able to perform?
Yeah, I mean, I think like one thing, like one aspect of like why I like stuck with like stand up for a while, like, okay, everybody was like telling me like obviously like I worked through it a bit more from like when I was like in like 7th grade and like literally like wouldn't talk to like strangers or to my teachers or whatever, but I was still like pretty cripplingly shy, like or like, like maybe it's not exactly shyness, but like what you were saying, like pretty like cripplingly like afraid of like like hearing my own voice, like like just some type of like anxiety or like inability to like break through like not wanting to do that. And so like everybody like kept telling me to like try Toastmasters. I don't know if you have that in the UK. It's
what is it? Sorry.
It's sort of like groups where you go and it's supposed to like help you with like public speaking.
Okay.
And it costs like, I don't know, like maybe like $100 a session or something like that. And I kind of like I tried my first open mic because my friends were like, oh, you're so funny, you should do this. And I sort of like realized that open mics were like a very like low cost ratchet way of like doing Toastmasters. So I kind of like used it to like practice like talking in front of like people. And like, I guess like just there's something about like just forcing yourself to do something like over and over again where like it just makes it easier over time. So like, yeah, like I guess I was sort of like, even if I don't succeed in like stand up, I'm like at least getting like this practice like talking out loud. And like, yeah, I think that definitely helped a lot. And then also like I guess like yeah, I think like one of like the things with like being shy, like being so like cripplingly like shy or like bad at public speaking, like I guess I sort of like from like a stand-up perspective, like I started as like a really good writer, but then it took like a long time for like my performance like skills to like match up to like where my joke writing was. Which I think like everybody has a sort of like natural ability that they come in with like performance skills and then like writing skills. And I think like I think this is like I find this unfair, but like I get it. Like if you start as like a strong performer and like a bad writer, people tend to be more impressed by you because like there's something about like it's easier to like understand like that somebody is like good at stand up if they're like holding a microphone and like talking confidently, even if like what they're saying is like not very funny, versus like somebody like saying funny things but you can like hardly even like understand what they're saying because they're like mumbling so badly and talking so quietly. So like yeah, I guess I've been like maybe for the past like 5 years or something like really making a concentrated effort to like work on performing better.
And watching some of your bits and pieces, I really enjoy your delivery. Now, do you feel that you're being the way you are, or amplifying it even
Yeah.
on stage, in terms of the slightly awkward way that you deliver material, which I think is to its benefit? Is that, would you say, an amplification of how you are, or is that just you being you?
Yeah, I think that's like for sure part of like I think that's like a part of like who I am. Like I am like a sort of like naturally awkward and shy person. And like if anything, I've like worked very like hard to like get it to like be as like non-awkward as like as it is. I like there's like a video on my YouTube page of like me doing stand up in like 2017, or no, sorry, 2019. And yeah, like it's really like you can like see sort of like the stark difference of like, and like at that point I had like already been doing stand up for like a while, so like I don't know, I mean, like I guess like I that might be like a struggle that's like unique to like autism, is like I was, like I guess like a lot of people that try stand up are like they're struggling with like getting over like their fear of like like their fear, like their performance anxiety and like whatever. And like I was like literally like just struggling to like say words fluidly like out loud.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know.
No, I really enjoy it. I really like the way you speak when you're performing. I think maybe part of it is the way you talk about things like dating and sex and stuff like that, and I think maybe it's just the way you deliver it in such a deadpan way is just really enjoyable for me. I just really like listening to you talk about stuff like that.
Thanks.
No, you're welcome. Okay, so before we go, so I was curious to know. So are you a full-time comedian at this point, or is this something that you're doing alongside something that keeps the lights on in your house?
Yeah, I have a day job.
Okay. Do you mind telling me what it is, or is that something that's
Yeah, sure. I edit like a section of a website, and I do podcast editing.
Oh, okay. So you talked a little bit earlier on about how you tried to do normie stuff. So you tried to get a traditional job, and it was horrible. So what was that experience like of trying to kind of be in the world of being a kind of gainfully employed person?
I think that like I just find like in-person office work like intolerable. I'm not saying that like like neurotypical people enjoy it either, but like, I just like, it's just like you feel like you're under like observation like all day. And yeah, like it's just like it's just like kind of intolerable. And then like, I don't know, like people were just like trying to have like conversations with me about like the most like banal things, and I'm just like, I hate you. I hate being here. Um, there was like I remember like one conversation with like the secretary of like the place I was working for. She like, I don't know like she like brushed against like the shirt I was wearing, and she was like, "Oh, that like fabric feels really nice." And I said like, "Thanks. I shop by texture." And she just like looked like, she was like, "Wow, I wish I could buy soft things too like that." And I just like, I didn't say this because I didn't want to be rude, but I was just like, you can. Like nothing is forcing you to wear like fabrics you don't like. But yeah, I was just like having that type of conversation like over and over again, and I was just like, I can't be here, and like I don't know. And also I really like to work in like as much silence as I can. Probably partially because of like my concurrent like ADHD, but like yeah, I just like I find offices like insanely distracting, and like I don't know.
It's
Yeah.
mad. It's and I'll do it for as long as I can, or as long as I need to, until I can make a living doing things that I actually want to do. And fucking hell, it's a nightmare because it's a performance. What started off when I was younger as the kind of timid shyness and wishing that I could do some of the things that other people could do, it's completely changed now to having no interest in doing those things whatsoever, and having no problem saying I don't want to do it. But it's the bullshit meter, my bullshit valve, or whatever you want to call it, my reflex,
100%.
my bullshit reflex. It's just like, fucking hell, why are we here? Why are we doing this? Every single meeting that I go to, I think is a waste of time. It's like, this is a fucking email. Just send me the email. I don't want to sit here for 3 hours and talk about it. And every conversation is just so pointless. It's the pleasantries. It's the fucking water cooler moments. It's the, why are you pretending that you care about any of this stuff? Or how are you able to pretend that you care about any of this stuff? Or even worse, do you actually care about this stuff? Because none of those eventualities are positive. But do you actually like doing this shit? You actually, or are they just like they've given up on themselves so much that I'm just going to play along with it now because I hate myself so much, and I don't want to do anything different. It's horrible.
I also like I like have a good amount of like privilege that like I was able to like move back in with my parents and stuff, and like quit that job to like look for something that was like more enjoyable. And like, yeah, I know there are probably I know there are many people who like do have to like suck it up and like do that stuff. But like, yeah, it's hard.
But what sort of life is that though? It's just giving up on yourself entirely just to help someone else get rich, or richer, while you're just having meetings with pictures of fucking charts and graphs and deliverables and the fucking the office language as well, just the vernacular that people use in a corporate environment as well. It's a completely different language. It's a language that you would use outside of work. You would never say some of the shit that you say in the office in the meeting. But it's like, oh god, everything just makes me uncomfortable. Everything makes me cringe. It's really good that you've managed to get yourself into the position where you are you're doing things for yourself, and of the people that I've spoken to, if I remember rightly, I think about 90% of the people I've spoken to are self-employed. They don't have traditional jobs, and they've had them, or they've tried to have them, but they just haven't done very well in that environment. And I'm the same. I wish I was self-employed, and I know most people probably feel that way.
Yeah.
But I'm still doing it. I'm still doing a 9 to 5, and I don't know how sometimes, but it is definitely, you need to create an environment for yourself in which you can, if not flourish, then at least survive. And being on someone else's timeline and someone else's schedule, someone else's way of doing things, in a really brightly lit building where everyone's just loud and stinks, and everyone's fucking everyone else. It's just, no thanks.
Right. And with the timeline thing, like you just mentioned, I think part of it is like I feel like I can't. I'm sure I don't want to say like that I'm the only one like that, whatever. But like I need like I can only work for like a couple of focused hours a day, and like like being forced to like try to act like I'm focusing for 8 hours a day, like I don't know, just like really takes it out of me. And I feel like most office jobs actually are designed that like there are really only 2 or 3 hours of like work in the day, and then it's like, what are you supposed to do for the rest of the day? Like like I don't know, like yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I can only really keep my shit together for a couple of hours at a time. But luckily, I'm able to do a lot in that time, because we're smart, right? So we can be incredibly productive in those 2 hours, and probably on the balance of it, do as much work as everyone else is doing in a whole day anyway. But yeah, it's not conducive to people like us, that kind of environment, certainly. But that's another thing quickly that made me feel better once I was diagnosed as well, because I could stop thinking that I'm just a loser. Because there were plenty of times where I thought, I mean, I've had the same job now for about 8 years, which was unheard of previously, before I was diagnosed with ADHD and started medication on that about 15 years ago. But I would have a job for a short period of time and I'd either quit or be fired. I couldn't do it. And I just thought, I'm obviously a fucking waste of space then, because everyone else manages to have a job and keep a job. I can't do it. So I didn't think, oh, I'm wired up differently, so I don't, that kind of environment just doesn't fit well with the way that my brain works. It was just, I'm lesser for it, and I should be able to do this, and I felt like a piece of shit for it. But so the diagnosis has helped me with that, because I no longer feel like that. I'm like, well, I mean, I pat myself on the back that I've got the same job for 8 years, in spite of everything conspiring against me being able to do it. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there, because I'm very, very hot, and there are flies in the room that are making me want to hurt stuff. But it's been really fun talking to you, Rebecca. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for taking the time out to speak to me. You're performing tonight, aren't you?
Yes.
Oh, well, good luck with that. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
I will keep a close eye on, I don't think I've subscribed to your YouTube yet, but I definitely will. I look forward to seeing your special when it comes out in a few months' time.
Yes.
And yeah, being really good to talk to you, and I'll catch up with you again soon, I'm sure. Welcome back. That was Rebecca Kaplan. I hope you enjoyed it. Full disclosure, I still haven't recorded it at the time of recording this outro. I'm really doing some jiggery pokery with the space-time continuum this week. But I was just, oh my God, I'm sorry. My brain is just elsewhere entirely. I would very much recommend that you go to Rebecca's website to see the latest from her in terms of where she's going to be performing, and lots of other bits and pieces, as well as links to her Instagram, YouTube, and so on. So you can go to RebeccaTKaplan.com for that information. Now, if you enjoyed this podcast, which I'm assuming you did, I would very much appreciate it if you were to leave a review. Leave a comment on whatever format of listening/watching you enjoy this particular podcast. I'll remind you again, because I do it every week, this podcast is recorded in both audio and video forms. If you are listening to the audio only version, then please do go to my YouTube channel to see the video version. If you are watching the video version and you want to have a change of pace, listen to the audio-only version by going to any podcast platform and searching for Shouty Brain. I would very much appreciate it if you would interact via either of those channels by leaving reviews, comments, interacting with me, engaging with me. You can also contact me via my website at shoutybrain.com if you so wish. I'd very much like to hear from you, especially if you've got ideas for future guests who you think I should have on the show. I'd very much welcome that to take a little bit of the work away from me. But yeah, look at my stuff, man, because it's pretty good, you know. But yeah, get in touch. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And once again, full disclosure, the day I'm recording this, which is the day before it comes out, we are enjoying an almost full solar eclipse, which is going to be happening in about half an hour's time. I've got a big black towel hanging on my window to stop the sun from coming in, so I can't see. So it's basically a solar eclipse anyway. So that's just a little bit of auxiliary information for those of you who decided to stay until the end. I was very grateful. I'm sure it was worth it. Wasn't it worth it? Oh yeah, it was. Anyway, I'm going to go and lay down in a dark room and like calm myself down a little bit because I feel a crash coming. Have fun. Love you. Shouty Brain.